Okay, and we are live. How is everybody doing today?
Good,
Uh,
good, good to
so,
see everyone.
so as you guys out there might notice, is we are missing a redhead child. He's gone.
You might
He is.
say he's not on tap tonight.
He's not on tap tonight. Um, he triple booked himself promoting Barrel Mail, which is his new product. That's sort of like a chainmail 0E type of thing. So he's promoting that on some streams, and so we got Greg Christopher today, Chubby Funster, who's going to be putting out Shadow Sun Second Edition. Is that what's called Second
I'm
Edition?
calling it revised.
Or revised.
I'm
That's
not,
right.
yeah, I'm not
It's
really
not a Second Edition.
changing the mechanical basis. It's more of
Yeah.
an expansion and some small revisions.
And that's kickstarting next month. Goes live.
Yeah, September 25th.
September.
Excuse me, 15th, September 15th.
Nice.
And
Awesome.
it was going to be August 4th, but I just didn't get enough written this summer because I moved. I'm in North Carolina now instead of Georgia, and moving sucks really bad, and
Yeah.
a lot of work, and just didn't get as much written as I needed to be on track. I don't like, and I'm sure everybody has a story about a Kickstarter where supposedly things were all ready to go, and then it dragged out and it dragged out.
Yeah.
Unless I have it really for real written all the way, yeah, like I don't want to pull the trigger because I don't want to be stuck owing people things, being behind on things. It sucks.
And I appreciate that. You know, I mean, you guys know I back a lot of Kickstarters, and you know, I've heard the story before where it's done, it's just got to go to editing, and then it's like a year later they're like, oh, we're almost done writing it. So wait, what? You said it was done.
Yeah.
But I know you've been really good about that. I know like Troll Lord is really good about having it done before they, you know, like I don't think that they're writing anything. Maybe Jason, you could fill in, you know, some of that, but I think everything's done, right?
No, they try to have
go to Kickstarter.
Troll Lord. There's been some situations where it's happened, and it used to happen much more in the past, but now they try to have everything done before the Kickstarter goes live. And I know for my company, for Elflair Games, I never launch a Kickstarter until the manuscript is written. I'm often doing the layout and graphic design while the Kickstarter is running, but
Sure.
I've never missed a launch date because that's important to me. I think it's idiocy to launch a Kickstarter because you have an idea that you haven't put into reality.
Yeah.
And it seems like, and it's like we're laughing, but it seems like so many people do that.
It happens. I've seen it. Yeah.
Like I see like big name like companies. I'm not going to say who they are, but there are several big Kickstarters that went up like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that were the return of huge names in gaming. And we're still getting like, oh, we're going through licensing and we're going through promotions and you know, and approvals, and we're still doing editing and layouts. And why wasn't this shit done before the Kickstarter ever even went live? It just doesn't make sense to me. It just
I really love the movie Get Shorty, and there's a scene in there where he says he has an idea for a movie, and Gene Hackman's character's like, tell me the idea for a movie. And John Travolta goes through the idea for the movie. He goes, you don't really have a movie. You've got an idea. You got this. You don't have a female lead. You don't have this. You have a blah, 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 blah. I feel like that's what happens. They're like, I have an idea for a game. It's like, yeah, but it's a big leap from where you are to it being ready to ship. And
now, for those who are listening, what you're hearing is a discussion between a few people who use Kickstarter in the way it probably should be used. A couple guys down there, and then me. I avoid Kickstarter like the plague, precisely because of the people who use it the other way.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to get confused. So when we do like a pre-release, our book is not only done, layout's done. Artwork is generally all in, or maybe we're waiting on 2 or 3 pieces that if we needed to, we could publish without. And we literally are just going, how many should we print?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please pre-order so we can estimate that.
Yeah.
And that is, yeah, I much prefer that. And if I were going to use Kickstarter, that's the way I would use it, as well as kind of a pre-order thing, rather than as a fundraising to make the product in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sadly don't have the money to fund everything out of the gate, and I need to rely on crowdfunding to get my stuff out on the market. But again, like you said, that's what Kickstarter is intended to be used for. I have issues with all these big companies who use Kickstarter basically as just an advertising platform. And
pre-order
it
thing or
hurts.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, it hurts those of us who are actually using crowdfunding for the purpose for which it was intended.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and I can't blame them for this because Kickstarter and BackerKit are businesses and they want to make money. That's what businesses do.
Yeah.
But Kickstarter and BackerKit love these big companies that are coming in here and using them as advertising platforms. And I don't blame them. They're making millions of dollars off of it. But the whole point of crowdfunding was to help those of us who don't have a big bank account.
Right.
And, when companies that don't need Kickstarter to fund their products come in, it hurts the rest of us. It really does.
Yeah. Simon. Yeah. That like they were using it as just pre-orders for their thing. And of course, I mean, right. Like that wasn't the original intent, but also like you said, Kickstarter's not going to say, oh, you're going to have a $10 million Kickstarter that we get $1 million for not doing shit. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't, we don't want you
exactly.
to use it.
Obviously, they're not going to do that. And you can't blame them. I mean, that's money rolling in for them. It's what they do, but yeah.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yep. That happened, Dan.
Yep. Because they got into a bankrolling everything via Kickstarters and then immediately turning around and promoting the new product before they even released the one they just collected money for. And that caused problems when they had a slump in sales combined with an increase in production costs.
I've heard from a very reliable source that I trust 100% that both Kickstarter and BackerKit, with these large Kickstarters that they know are going to succeed, will basically, I don't know if this is the right technical word for it, but they'll rebate their marketing costs. So they'll say, we'll basically pay for the first 100,000 in advertising or whatever, however much it is. And then the company will be picking up that money on the Kickstarter or BackerKit profit at the end. So it's basically like a short-term loan from BackerKit or Kickstarter to these huge, because they know they're going to get their money back. They know that the people doing it want that money for advertising. And so they basically are churning that business advantage that small fish like us do not.
Right.
Let me whip out my $100,000 marketing budget. Holy shit. Yeah. So
and here's the thing. I took, and this is why I won't use them again. I went to BackerKit for my last campaign for 13 parsecs. I used BackerKit instead of Kickstarter because everybody told me how wonderful BackerKit would be to work with, and that they'll give you they promise you the world, right? And then you get set up, and the setup is a nightmare to get set up to do a BackerKit campaign. And then they told me that if I really wanted to be successful on BackerKit, I had to throw them $20,000 for an advertising budget.
Wow.
And when I told them, I said, if I had $20,000, I wouldn't need to use BackerKit to print this project. And immediately all the support from BackerKit dropped off. It vanished. And I was on my own, just like I was at Kickstarter.
You're not the only person that I've heard this from, and I do know someone who did pay, and it worked well.
Sure, however, if you have it,
right.
Yeah, if you have it, but that's BackerKit's model. They promise you the world, and then they want you to kick up a huge advertising budget for them to leverage their, and it just, for somebody who is using it to actually fund a project that they don't have a huge advertising budget for, it's not good for them. So I'm back to Kickstarter for my next ones.
So for the topic today, as far as when you're designing a game, one thing you need to think about, folks, is how to pay for it.
It's true.
How when you are done, or when you're near done, Are you going to be able to afford the artwork, afford the printing costs, afford shipping? This is something that you need to think about ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it is a purely PDF product, that is okay, but realize that your profit margins or that the most amount you can possibly sell is actually lower, because there are customers who will only buy physical, and there are customers who want physical plus digital, and you'll have eliminated all of those.
And there are customers for people that don't want to do PDFs.
Yeah.
There are customers that will only buy PDFs. So
that is correct.
If you want to maximize your audience, you got to hit all the bases.
Yeah.
There's also, I mean, this is kind of the dark side of the internet. There's people who will pirate it.
Oh, yes.
Or they make a choice to buy it. And if they don't have a physical product to buy, then they will have already just pirated it and walked off.
Yeah. I mean, pirating, that's actually, that could be I feel like that could be a topic unto itself. But honestly, the truth of the matter is, don't worry about piracy as a small publisher. Just don't. People are going to pirate your book. There's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. It's going to be pirated, and you can waste tons of stress and time and effort trying to scrub it all from the internet, and you won't do it. And the simple truth of the matter is, the people that stole your book were never going to buy it to begin with.
Right.
So it's not hurting your sales.
I don't know. I think it can almost, in some instances, like help, because it gets your thing out there. Like, I mean, I've been given PDFs from people, and if it's a game that I don't like I was never going to buy it anyway, and I'm not going to use the PDF, so there's no loss to the thing. But if it's a PDF or something that I like, I'll go and buy it. Yeah, if there's a physical copy, I'll buy it. If there's a PDF, I'll buy it. Just because, especially from a small producer or small company, like, I mean, if I like their product, I want to give them money so that they will keep making stuff.
Yeah.
I will confess that I have committed a terrible sin of piracy because I did not want to buy Tales of the Radiant Citadel. So I looked it up online in order to screen cap it for a YouTube video that I made about it. And then I deleted all the images and wiped it off of my hard drive because I don't want anybody to ever find it. Is one of my
the Pinkertons are on their way now.
Yeah.
So
I feel like if anybody says they've never downloaded an illegal or gray market PDF, they're probably lying.
Probably. Yes.
We've all done it at some point.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've never done an illegal thing ever.
But yeah, again, it's like what I said. People who were going to steal your book weren't going to buy it to begin with. And I think, Roger, what you said is valid in some cases, that there are people who will look at it and then decide, I like this, I'm going to buy it. I think that's kind of an outlier as far as the statistical
it could be,
effect that piracy has. But yeah.
Yeah.
I generally don't plan for it, but I'm just like, if you have no print option at all,
right,
you're definitely, however many people there are that might have done that, it's zero.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, that's something that's just addressing something that Todd said, and we could do a whole episode probably on piracy and whatnot. But
maybe if we think about, like, when you're getting started, when you want to get a new project going, what is it that you do to begin that new project or to get set up for a new project?
You know what?
Or Roger, the one that you're working on.
Oh, Jesus. I want to back up actually one step. Yeah. I want to go to one step before that.
Okay.
Is where I had the question, right? Because I think this is like the actual start, right? Like, before you're actually going to write something, why are you writing it? Like, what are your reasons, or especially like what you guys have going on now, whatever your most recent thing is, like, why did you start to write that? Was there like a gap in the, in what's out there, or just you wanted something that worked a little different, or you started house ruling something until it got to the point where you're like, okay, this is completely, a new thing, or like what starts that process where you go, okay, you know what? I'm just going to write my own thing.
I mean, I think for me, and also let me apologize to everybody tonight that I apparently look like I have a Renee Zellweger squint. It's because of the placement of my camera on my laptop. Right? My eyes are open, I assure you. But I think it's really a combination, and it depends on the individual product for me. So the first thing I published, and I'm talking about self-publishing here, like not the work that I do for Troll Lord, which is
Sure.
freelance and work for hire, which is a different thing entirely. But for myself, the first thing I did for myself was Spellcraft and Swordplay back around 2008, 2009. And that actually started as me trying to figure out how you could use chainmail as a combat resolution mechanic for OD&D. And we had a big discussion about it over at the ODD 74 forums. It had been going on for months, and I started putting down notes and pages of notes. And I did not intend to write a game at first until I realized that I had just written a game. And then once I'd written the game, I thought, well, I might as well clean it up, lay it out, and I have it. I might as well put it out there and see what happens. So that's how it all started for me. But then when you get further in, I tell people now that all I can do is make games that I want to play and hope that they find an audience.
Sure.
And I think somewhere it has to come down to that, because if you're trying to write for other people, it's going to be transparent that that's what you're trying to do, that there's not a lot of heart and soul that goes into it. You have to really want to put out what you're putting out into the world. The night shift started when Tim and I got this idea to, can we do Buffy the Vampire Slayer using original Dungeons and Dragons mechanics? And that evolved into Night Shift. And then once we had Night Shift and we had Elflair Games as an actual LLC, an actual company, we've got this game on the market. Now what do we do? Well, now the logical thing to do is to branch out. We have a modern urban fantasy horror game. So let's branch out. Let's add a fantasy game, like a sword and sorcery fantasy game. Let's add a science fiction game. But you can't just jump right into those, because again, it has to be something that you really want to write. So it has to be, what do I really want to do with these things? Like, do I have something to say with these products?
Hold on, we got some connection issues there, Jason.
Oh, okay. Is it just Todd, or
It might be just you, but
it might be just you. Yeah, I think we were okay.
Texas might be separating from the United States right now.
Might be Todd. I don't know.
Just Todd? Yeah. You all right, Todd? You got us?
I do.
All right.
Okay.
Let me just try re-entering though and see if that fixes it.
Okay.
Yeah, you do that. So Greg, how about for you? What's
all of my projects are forced on me involuntarily. This has been true from the very beginning. Okay, Todd missed it, but my answer was all my projects are forced on me involuntarily. So I'll just start going back from today. Right. So right now I'm working on Shadow Sun. I'm doing the revisions. I originally wrote Shadow Sun because I was mad at Wizards of the Coast and because of the OGL crisis. And then Shadow Dark went crazy. And I was like, what if there was an ocean of black silt instead of the normal Dark Sun stuff? But otherwise, it was like Dark Sun. So like you could sail on this ocean of black silt, and it would be like Shadow Darky or whatever. And then the next week, I got my first prescription for Ritalin. And as soon as I started taking that, it was like, every cylinder was going. It was like, let's make all these. Here's 400 more ideas you could put into that, right?
Yeah.
And so all of that got written down, right? The revisions were because I could finally afford a really nice poster map, commissioned illustrated map. And as soon as I bought it, that same thing, thousands and thousands of ideas involuntarily about how to use this, how to improve this, and how to bring it up. I was working on most of last year on an Al-Qadim type Shadow Dark conversion because of all the ideas that I thought up for Shadow Sun that didn't work because they were too Al-Qadimi. and they just kept accumulating on the side. They just come out constantly come out. Until the text file gets big enough that I'm like, okay, we got to actually make this thing. Shadow City, I figured out how to use the Shadow Dark random creation methods for doing dungeons and settlements into building the whole city for Vampire. I've loved Vampire for a long time. And then once my brain made that one connection, infinity stream of ideas coming out every second of the day, and I had to write them down. That's it. That's the only way to make it stop is to finish the project so that it will stop. It's all forced on me against my will.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I'm in the similar position, other than, of course, it is my will.
Yeah.
That I originally started writing war games because I enjoyed war games, and I felt that many of them were over complex or over simple. One of the two. There wasn't a happy medium.
Sure.
And I wanted something that I could play in a reasonable amount of time, set up in a reasonable amount of time, and have a lot of fun, and that had a lot of flexibility with different miniatures and stuff. And then I just didn't do any game design for a while, and then I started doing a bunch of RPG conversions or writing monster stat blocks or writing different NPCs for different RPGs I was playing. And eventually, though, I hit upon several ideas that I was like, I really think I just need to write my own game. And my buddy Nate had been working with me writing anyway, off and on, for about 15 years, doing projects for our particular games that we were running. And so we decided to just switch gears and actually start producing games for other people. And so Horde Wars is really us going, we feel like modern D&D is overwritten, that there's an awful lot of bloat and it doesn't play very quick. Here's a game that has similar degree of complexity, but no bloat and plays faster. And then Dropship is very similar, where we were really wanting to play military sci-fi, and there wasn't a lot out there that kind of hit the midpoint of it being tactically complex, but also not being super slow and bogged down.
It was a similar thing for us when the way Night Shift came about was kind of Tim and me. I mean, we both still play and run Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the official Buffy role-playing game, but it kind of came about with the two of us. We knew each other from working for Eden Studios back in the day, and we said, Buffy's not being published anymore, and can we come up with a game that suits our needs as a replacement for that, and uses the types of rules that we both love to use in our games. And then when it came time to do Wasted Lands, I really wanted a sword and sorcery system that emulated the type of play that you see in Robert E. Howard's fiction that I didn't feel like had ever been done properly in a role-playing game. The closest I've seen is the current Conan RPG, which is outstanding, but that wasn't out yet when I did Wasted Lands. And I wanted, Todd, like you're saying, I wanted a game that really emulated like what I feel like when I read a Conan story. I wanted a game that did that mechanically and was able to use my existing house system to do it. It was the same with 13 Parsecs. Tim and I talked, and our friend Derek, who we also know from Eden, who is a partner with us, about how, like, can we come up with a game that can cover Cyberpunk and Shadowrun and Star Wars and Traveler all in one big package? Can we do that with these nice, streamlined, fast-playing rules that we've developed? And that's kind of where 13 Parsecs came about. So it's very similar, I think, Todd, to what you're saying about how you come up with your ideas.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Interesting.
And the thing is, I'm not interested in writing stuff that I don't want to play.
Right. Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that true for you, Greg? Do you write things that you're like, other people will like this? I don't, but whatever.
Not real. I mean, there's sometimes where I put like a particular thing in there, like a
Oh yeah,
or whatever that I'm like, I don't know, but people like monsters that do, like the rust monster. I hate rust monsters, but if it's an expectation that there's going to be a rust monster there, I might put it in there. Like there's things that, you know, little things like that. Like I can't think of it more than that. Like it's just like I know that somebody, if I don't put this in, somebody's going to go, "What about this thing?" And I'm, oh yeah, okay. So I'll put it in for that reason, even if I don't really use it.
Right.
Yeah.
Got to have rust monsters.
Exactly. Yeah, he's the guy.
You gotta have.
I'll see how you enjoy Rust Monster on Saturday night, right?
So
we'll see.
I got a bow and arrow.
I'll just drop one in Dolmenwood, and it'll be your best friend.
I have a bow and arrow. I'm wearing leather armor, so
good to go. Yep. I would just point out that even leather armor generally has metal buckles.
Rivets.
Yeah, sure.
Just
absolutely.
send it following Roger around like a lost puppy.
Listen, I'll feed it. I mean, I'll try and get the thing as a pet. I'll be fine. You could throw that stuff at me. I'm okay with it.
Roger took a huge risk on last Saturday night. He walked right up to a very nasty, scary looking thing, and he carved his name on it next to everybody else who had carved their name on it. And he's going to reap the whirlwind next week. So we'll see how it goes.
There's going to be stuff. Well, I mean, that's how
I didn't mean to
walk into the thing. No, it's fine.
We derail all the time in this chat. That's what we do.
There's an obelisk that's got people's names carved into it, and everybody else won't even go near the thing.
Roger's like, I'm going to start walking up to the obelisk, and I'm like, okay, the wind picks up. You can't hear anybody behind you or anything. You're like walking up to this thing. It's like you're in your own special world. He's like, I'm going to chisel my name into it.
Well, he's like, oh, there's names chiseled into it and all this. And so I turn around to my group and I'm like, hey, has anybody got a chisel? And Dan is in the chat.
Why do I feel?
Yeah, Roger, I got a chisel. Here you go.
Roger, why do I feel like you're the guy in D&D who puts his hand in the mouth of the statue?
Yeah, look, I mean, somebody look. Here's my thing.
You're the guy in Tomb of Horrors that sticks his head into the.
I wouldn't stick my head in there. I would stick a 10-foot pole in there first. But like my whole thing is like, and Tomb of Horrors is a great example, right? Because I've played in some games of that, and there's too many people out there. And I've played in too many game groups, right, where they go up to a door and it's a 45-minute process of let's have the thief check it 3 times. Let's cast detect magic on it. Let's everybody do a listen check. And then we're going to go outside and camp for the night and then come back and get ready. And then we'll open the door. And it's like, and it's like at that point, I'm just like, I open the door. Like if my character gets killed and I need to open another character, I like the time that I have to roll up a new character, minus the time that I saved in not having to do all these checks at the door, I've saved an hour of everybody's time. So that's me, We
have a term for that in our group. We call it when it gets to be to that point, somebody inevitably goes, "Can we not shadow run this?" Because that's what you do in Shadowrun. You spend 2 sessions planning your heist before you go in, and it's one of the things I'm not overly enthralled with Blades in the Dark. However, that game does a few things really, really well.
Yeah,
and one of them is getting rid of the obnoxious Shadowrun planning by saying there's 3 ways you can approach this. Pick a way. And we're going to go at, that's a great
D&D players, though, traditional, if somebody's played D&D a bunch, they can't, some of that, they can't wrap around their head. Mm-hmm. The quantum inventory slots, they can't, people want to check things. They want to say, okay, I'm taking these things. And I'm like, no. You don't have to take anything with you. You take it with you in hindsight.
Right.
While you're playing.
Right.
And people are like, yeah, but I want to be wearing armor. No, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. You can wear heavy armor. You just don't actually have it on you yet.
Quantum.
Yeah, I mean, I take an approach a lot of times
It's-
when I'm running
yeah.
a game in you have what it's reasonable for your characters to have in a given situation. I don't
Yeah.
need you to have
Right.
50 feet of hemp rope and a 10-foot pole written down on your character sheet.
Sure.
If it comes up in game, like you're experienced, well-equipped adventurers. If it comes up in game and somebody goes, "Hey, do I have rope?" Yeah, somebody in
Yeah.
your group probably has rope.
Yeah. On the
Yeah.
one hand, if you're in a city, in a town, or in a place where you've got general access to marketplaces, I won't bother with that sort of thing. But if you're in the
Sure.
wilderness or fairly deep in a dungeon, then no, I will go. Do you have that with you? Is that
Yeah.
something you're carrying? Because that's really where it starts to become a gameplay element. If you're in an
That's
area where
fair.
there are plenty of resources, it's kind
Yeah.
of silly to track because you can just get more. If you're in an area with extremely finite resources, now knowing what's there actually adds to the game, adds to the challenge.
That's fair, and
dungeons where the way in is difficult, so you have to really make a choice about how much am I actually getting. We're gonna have to crawl down a rope into the side of this mountain. We got to really be sure we're carrying the minimum amount of stuff, because coming out, we're gonna want to be carrying more stuff, presumably.
right.
And it's not going to work if we're at max load going up this rope. So there's that kind of scarcity issue that way.
Yeah, I kind of look at a balance there when you're in dungeon. There are some things that I will assume your characters, as reasonably experienced adventurers, are going to have with them, but there are also some things that are finite resources. Do I have a torch or a lantern? Yes, you do, but you only have X number of hours worth of torches or lantern oil with you, and those are going to run out. Do I have arrows? Yes, but now you're in a dungeon and you don't have the ability to get more arrows, so we're going to start tracking. You have, a score of arrows, and once they're gone, and this is how we're going to deal with them breaking. So I kind of find a balance there between resources that run out and resources that are just reasonable for intelligent adventurers to have at their disposal.
One other thing I did it with was ropes. I had them going through basically a dungeon that was just a giant vertical shaft that slowly gets narrower and narrower, and the boss monster or monsters are at the bottom, and there's a bunch of cliffs that they're traversing and side chambers and intersecting caverns and stuff. And so the amount of rope was like the most important resource. was the thing they really had to track.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Roger and the guys found, was it 2,500 feet of rope?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah. There was this monster that was like hoarding this shit. Like he had this huge stockpile of rope.
The giant school?
It was like, holy crap. I was like, there's like these barrels of alcohol, and there's this much coin, and there's this much, and then there's 2,500 feet of rope. Like,
that's where your ranger has to decide that for their animal companion, they have a giant spider or a giant silkworm.
Oh yeah,
there you go. Yeah,
take care of your problem. But no, so we were going to talk about like rules design, and we're
Were we? Was that what we were talking about?
Yeah.
So the next thing to consider, right? So you've got your idea, or you've got your kind of notepad or your text file, Greg.
Yeah.
When do you pull the trigger, and when you pull the trigger to start actually writing the thing? What's the first thing that you're preparing, other than I have ideas, I'm writing them down?
First
I think thousands and thousands of people who don't design games will do that amount.
Yeah.
I certainly did before.
It gets so big that I can't easily scroll it on my phone anymore. Like the amount of content is so large that I'm like, okay, I got to go back up to where I was talking about attributes, and then I got to go down to where I had listed these things or whatever. So like when I get all of that, I know you did, Dan. You're a miser, but Dan calculates every last penny. So when I get to that point, I convert it into a file that's in layout. I write everything in layout after the notepad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
I did layout for work for a long time. I use InDesign I have a free license for InDesign for work right now. Like I do tons of work in InDesign. So I just open it up in InDesign and I start building it out. So like I've been doing a YouTube series on my next thing that was involuntarily forced on me, which is fixing Curse of Strahd. So I did like a 10-part video series on Curse of Strahd. And then when I went to North Texas, like tons of people talked to me about this video series. And so then I had even more involuntary thoughts about how to do Curse of Strahd the right way. Like the geography is wrong. The water does not flow uphill between two mountains. Like, hello.
Yeah.
So things like that. So it just started going. And it got up to the point now, like I have a video up now where it's like, this is what the layout's going to look like. I put it in layout. So then once I have a trade dress for it, basically, which for people that don't know, trade dress is like the overall aesthetic of your layout. So like it's going to have these kind of headers and these kind of columns, and this is how we're going to do the boxes and the charts and everything like that. Once you do that, I create a kind of a lorem ipsum generic version of them. And then I create the entire chapter structure of the book of what it's going to be. And I fill it with basically placeholders. Like, here's a placeholder for all of this level 1 spells. Here's a placeholder for all the level 2 spells. Here's whatever it is, however it's structured. And then I will continue to have random thoughts, but now they will be injected into this layout that's already created. So I don't ever think of things. I don't sit down and go page by page by page by page. It's just, I have a thought for a second level spell. Here it goes into this slot. I have a thought for this piece of equipment. It goes over here. It's just the layout gets put out. It'll be like 100 pages. Almost all of it just lorem ipsum placeholder text. And then I'll just go in and fill it in over time until it's all done.
I start with rules. I always start with rules. I just start hammering them out, and I hammer them out and hammer them out and hammer them out until they are beaten into a bronze sheet.
And you mean the core rules for how does the game baseline function?
Yeah, or if I'm doing a source book, it's what kind of like additional new subsystems or rules am I going to tack on? But yes, for a core game, I start off with the system. And what the type of game is going to inform that system. So Night Shift, for example, we knew it was going to be a toolkit horror urban fantasy game. So as I built out the Ogre system, it was always with that in mind, and with the idea that we were starting from OD&D as an original inspiration base for this. So it was at what point do those two intersect? And then I start beating out the individual things, like how is resolution going to work? Now I need to run statistical analysis, and then I need to balance that statistical analysis against the real world, because this is important for any aspiring game designers out there. I don't give a shit what the math nerds will tell you. Math and statistics are the beginning of game design. They are not the be all end all, because the moment you can have the most mathematically perfect game ever created, and the moment you put it on a table in front of players, it's going to fall apart.
Yeah, the question of is it fun is not a question math answers.
Right, exactly, exactly. So you do have to, do statistical analysis when you're building a system, but then you have to put it in front of players and see where, well, shit, while statistically it says that everything should work out this way, once players get involved, I have to adjust those numbers down by, 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever. So it's a delicate balancing act between art and science. But again, yeah, I start by beating out the system, and I hammer out the system until I get to the point where I've got all the rules there. And usually at that point, the rules are there. They've been hammered out. They've been ready to go. They've been made ready to go, but they're kind of a mess on the page. So that's then where I have to start shaping what I've pounded out at that point. And that's where you have to figure out what order do these go in and what goes first and how do I properly express what I'm trying to say with this rule. And that's kind of the second stage of rules design. And then the flavor text for me gets built around the rest of it. Now, and I've always got, again, these all come out with creative ideas. So yeah, I've got mounds of flavor text that have been percolating in my head that I've put down elsewhere while I'm working on this. And then it's all putting it all together from there, bit by bit. And I tend to work in chapters in my books. I used to work years and years ago when I first started. I used to just write a manuscript from, A to B, 300 pages. Now I get a loose outline in my head. I know what I want chapter 1, the introduction, to be. I know chapter 2 is going to be, character generation. I know chapter 3 is going to be rules. I know chapter 4 is going to be a GM's chapter. So and then I work on each individual chapter on its own. Once I have, say, chapter 3, the rules chapter hammered out, then I go back and build out that way. That's my process, anyways.
Yeah.
What about you, Todd?
So I basically tried to get the core game mechanics established. So for the D12 system, we were figuring out how should this game function. Same when I worked on Titans of Fallen Earth. Greg and I were working on how should the game just baseline play without any modifications from specialized mechs or careers or whatever. If you're just some random guy with no abilities, how should this work? What are the numbers that we should be using? Can we do a test combat? How does the gameplay flow? And then once I have that down, and I'll usually write that as a chapter where I'm actually working on thinking about like how I want the pages to look as well. Then I will do what Chubby described, and I will basically go and do an underlayer layout for each chapter. I don't finalize all of the trade dress up front though. I just figure out where do I want stuff on the page, and then I will start playing around with trade dress to see if there's any, like if I want to mess around with a particular font or something, or if there's if I want to use unique colors or something for headers or not. That's something I'll think about down the road. But I am writing in how much is supposed to be on this page, what's supposed to physically be here. Like for example, this page, if it's supposed to have 3 zombies and a quarter-page piece of art, I then need to write for that space. I need to have that laid out correctly. And the same is true for if I'm going to have a bunch of firearms or a bunch of swords or a bunch of axes or whatever. I'm building the layout up front and then populating it. And usually I'll be writing chapter by chapter, but I am not actually writing in order. I will jump around because sometimes I'll get stuck somewhere, and I've learned it's far more effective to not just keep grinding away at the thing I'm stuck on, move on to another portion of the book, work on that, then jump back.
Dan asks if you guys have a similar workflow of Greg writing layout, or you use something like Obsidian or Markdown.
Yeah, to answer that question for me, I absolutely do not work in layout. For me, layout's the last thing I do. I work in a traditional manuscript in a word processing program, and I write the manuscript. And which, when I get to the point now where I am with Night Shift, where we're getting ready to move into a second printing of it, it can be a little bit of a roadblock because I've done my errata in my layout, and I don't have my errata then in my original manuscript. So now when I have to redo layouts for certain sections, it becomes, a little bit of a hassle. But I, as a writer first, I had to learn how to do layout, and I use Affinity Publisher. Right now I'm using Affinity Publisher 2 because Affinity Publisher 3 sucks, and I'm having a hard time with the learning curve switching over to it. But that's neither here nor there. I had to learn how to do layout work, and now I'm fairly proficient. I mean, I'm good with Affinity Publisher. I'm fairly proficient with InDesign. I haven't even attempted Screbus yet. But I had to learn how to do that. So I came at this as a writer first. And as such, I tend to still work as a writer in word processing programs before anything else. And then layout to me comes last. And Todd, I found what you said about knowing what you have to write for space to be really interesting. And it's something that I've honestly never even considered in my work. I do my layout and I make it fit the way I need to make it fit while I'm doing layout after the manuscript's written, which is a different approach.
The reason why I do it, for the most part, is because it tells you what size and shapes you need for all kinds of different things, and particularly art, right? So, like I've been writing Shadow Sun Revised since January, and every time I get a page to where I'm like, this page is really ready to go, if I don't have an art piece for it that fits in the spot that I need art to be in, how I've laid it out, I can commission that then, and the art will come. And this is like a huge thing. The dimensions of the art need to match the dimensions of the layout, because if you get a more portrait shaped piece of art and you have a layout shaped spot, it is not going to work right. So like I realized a couple of days ago, I'm going to have to order a few new pieces that go at the bottom of a D20 table. So there's like a header, there's a D20 table, and then there's about the same size as the header block on like a Shadow Dark page across the bottom, that I can't just leave it blank. It's too much paper to leave blank. So I'm running out of stuff to put down there for spots. I'm going to have to order probably 3 or 4 more of those to make the book close out. But at least I know that now, rather than if I was waiting to do layout when I was done doing all of it. So that's the thing. Like by doing it in layout throughout the whole project, I can order, or I can say I have stock art that will fit on this page, so I don't need to order art for this. I have our art piece that needs to really capture a certain rare thing. Like I'm going to commission that to fit this or whatever. I can make those decisions as I'm writing it. That's to me.
That's why I do that as also. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's something that I never considered, and it's something that I might start thinking about a lot more in the future as I do future games. So I appreciate those insights from my end.
I'm good friends with Rob Alderman, who did Gods of Forbidden North, and I had a long talk with him over a year ago now about how much money he kind of, it's not wasted because he owns the art piece, he can use them in somewhere else, but
sure.
he had art pieces that he ended up not able to use in volume 1 because the shape of the place didn't fit the whatever. So then he had to do like, so there's just stuff that, when you're doing, you're like, oh man, I need more. I think Alexander McCree said he had problems with a lot of pages where, like what I was saying, the chart comes down and then there's a little spot at the bottom, and he didn't have an art budget for full color art because he's doing full color art through Adventure Conquer King 2. Mm-hmm. So he's like, holy crap, I gotta get all these strips of art ordered, because Acts 2 has these huge tables, right? They still leave a spot at the bottom of the page. So big issues. This people who think this is like, oh, it's just fun hobby game stuff.
This
is serious stuff. It's hard.
Hard. Layout can be a frustrating headache. But it also, I mean, if you have the mindset for it, it's also a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing layout as much as it can drive me nuts sometimes, especially when you think you have your book all laid out and ready to go, and then you find out that you've lost like 6 paragraphs that have just vanished into the ether somewhere, which for me makes it good that I work from a manuscript. Like, because if you're working in layout and then something vanishes and you can't find it.
But you're forgetting about Greg copy 1, Greg copy 2, Greg copy 3. Copy 4, which they can get deleted later, but they'll stick around.
Oh yeah, I save obsessively when I'm doing layout, because as great a program as Affinity is, it does have a frustrating capacity to crash at the worst possible freaking times.
So now when I talk about writing in a base layer of layout, what I mean is that I actually use a word processing program and I build page layout in it that I can then transition over to Affinity.
Okay.
And the reason I do it that way is because Affinity, as you mentioned, is not optimal in terms of sometimes it crashes, sometimes actually it really struggles to make good looking tables. It's just not what the program is good at.
It's finicky. You have to really dick around with your tables to get them looking right in Affinity. Yeah.
Whereas if I actually build the table in a different program and just import it, it's not a problem. Yeah.
So I'm not even too. I don't even know if I'll publish anything. I know that like Todd and I had a brief conversation about stuff. And I've been writing stuff like on and off, for a while now, but none of it's actually ever seen the light of day. And I mean, some of my players have seen it, but they don't know the full details of the setting or anything else. I think there's only like 2 other people in the world that know that. But anyway,
folks. Secret.
I have, there's secret now. There's like I don't know. There's like a whole interconnecting thing that I've always used.
Pitch I gave Joe the lawyer for the past 15 years, which is if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, there will be 0 people that carry it on because nobody that know cares enough.
Right. Absolutely.
Even if they're aware of your history, your lore, or whatever, they remember a few things. They're not memorized.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
So if you get run over tomorrow by a bus,
it's true.
It's Roger's true. World of happy fun gone.
There's a deep setting secret that goes with me, and no one will ever know it. Yeah.
I mean, like imagine if J.R.R. Tolkien had not written anything down and was just telling these stories to his kids, like he said, that's why he started doing it, and then he got hit by a train or something. Like that's it. He's over.
Real quick, I want to address. Somebody made a comment in the chat. iRoll RPG said I was using Word. I just lost. I was using Word to do all my text to transfer into Affinity, and it didn't recognize the default font. That's because that's not the way layout programs work. You actually have to go into Affinity and set up your document for your default font and what your headers are going to look like, and then you're going to have to encode it. Which is why a lot of us, when we do it, like when I am writing in Word, or I actually use Text Maker right now. When I'm working in my word processing program, if I want like a main like header number 1, I'll put whatever the text is, chapter 1 introduction, and then I will put a 1 in brackets next to it. And that tells me when I dump the whole thing into Affinity, I go looking for those 1s in brackets and assign each one my heading 1 code. And that turns it into the heading 1. What I always do is I dump all the text into Affinity, and then I set it all to whatever I have set up as my main body text. Everything gets set to main body text, and all the formatting gets stripped out. And then I can go through and say, here's my header 1s, here's my header 2s, here's my header 3s. And that's the grind of doing layout work.
But if you want to do the thing you were describing, the way to do that is to A, check what fonts are already in Affinity and in your word processor so that they will be mutually compatible, and that you pick a font that's in both. And if you don't pick that font, then add the font to both. That's a thing you can do. You can buy a licensed font to use for commercial purposes.
Licensed font is a lesser successful James Bond film, by the way.
I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt real quick because I have to clarify something. No, I absolutely do not use an AI editor and translator. I use no AI whatsoever. TextMaker is a word processing program that is compatible with Microsoft Word, and it is put out by a company called SoftMaker. Like many, even Microsoft Office now, it has AI functions that you can choose to use, and I do not use them. It is just a word processing program, and it has a spreadsheet program. It's a Microsoft Office alternative program. That's all it is. I absolutely will not, won't ever use AI. In fact, I am a plaintiff in a class action lawsuit against a number of generative AI programs and the companies behind them right now. So no,
it's only a matter of time before Clippy pops up and says, "Oh, it looks like you're writing an RPG."
Well, that's actually an issue.
It's been wrong. I'll have stuff where I put it in Word because I export everything out of InDesign into Word at the very end and go through and look for anything that it's checking as a spelling error or some other. The vast majority of the things that it finds are wrong. So I have to actually, really pay attention to what it is. I've had times for work on, this was a recent one. This was about a health questionnaire thing at work. And there was a line that had sexual as the word, and Microsoft Word wanted to change it to sex dual. Like DUAL, like sex dual. And it was really upset that I would, it kept underlining it. It kept doing all this stuff. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's just the most common word. Like, I'm not using prestidigitation or some shit. Like, well, what are you doing? So if it can't do that, I'm not going to hand it over.
Right.
A document with made up races and monsters and places and all that shit. It'll be like, water deep? Did you mean water creep? It's retarded. It's stupid.
It just really wants a sex duel. It sounds like it wants a sex duel.
Sex duels are underrated.
I'm not opposed, So Dan wants me to share the deep lore of the Rogerverse RPG. That's not happening, especially on a live stream. This I'm not quite sure where Agile's going with this.
Agile said he's on some medications after surgery.
He's definitely on some medication.
Yeah.
He also wanted to know what our golf handicaps are.
Mine is 0 because I don't play golf. I can't stand golf.
Yeah, well, 0 is actually a pretty good handicap.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's 8 million, whatever. I don't know. I don't know anything about golf.
Whenever I get asked, I tell people that the last time I went, I hit a 70, and then they tell me that that's pretty good, and then I tell them that that's on a 9-hole course, and that's how that conversation usually ends.
I'm very, very, very good at Grand Theft Auto 5 golf on the golf course. If you just walk onto the golf course in Grand Theft Auto 5, it'll start playing a round of golf. I'm fucking awesome at that. Okay. But actual golf, no.
Many years ago, I was okay at golf on the Activision golf on the Atari 2600.
There you go.
That was about as close as I ever got.
Fantastic. Where they have the thing where it is something moving up and down, and you have to press the button when you're going to swing it really good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm great at that.
Yeah.
Oh man,
good stuff.
Real quick, Agile. I absolutely appreciate what you were trying to do and your stance. It's all good, but yes, I just felt like I needed to clarify that once it came out. So
yeah.
I don't. Mini golf. I also do not play golf.
I play a little bit of mini golf. I've been trying to play more disc golf. Now that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to gets me a little exercise and gets out with the family and stuff. And it's been really hot this year, so I haven't really gone out. But yeah, I got to go out sometime.
For those Dan, mini golf is our preferred method of game design.
Yeah.
So
which has absolutely nothing to do with games and rules.
Good
design.
time. Well, I mean, there's rules to golf, right? Just like there are.
The rules to golf are hit the ball as far away from you as you possibly can.
So
walk after it, and when you find it, hit it again.
Hit it again, yeah. So
do you guys adjust your game design based on the genre you're writing for? Because you might have particular things that you really like or that you would use in most settings that you're like, no, that is not appropriate for this one. I should do this other thing. Or it may be that you just simply are not adapting the rules to the setting so much as maybe the flavor of the text or what have you. And I was kind of curious. What your preferences.
Yeah, I think you have to do that if you're going to be a decent game designer. you have to be willing to adapt your rules to the genre or the setting that you're presenting. I think there's too many game companies out here, and it's become this very arrogant indie thing where there's too many game companies out there that think they have the ultimate system and they're going to land a big license and they're going to ramrod that license around their system come hell or high water. And the game ends up awful for it. It ends up not representing the license at all. I don't have any licenses, but again, we're talking about genre emulation.
But think of an example where you did that.
So my core mechanics across my 3 games pretty much stay the same because they're simple and straightforward. I have a D20 combat mechanic. I have a percentile class abilities and skills mechanic, and I have my rule of 2 mechanic. Those are pretty universally applicable across the board, no matter what type of genre you're doing. What I do is I adapt, as a good example, in Wasted Lands, which is a sword and sorcery fantasy game, skills are expressly optional inclusion in the game because they're not overly needed. You can get by with a very simple, like, my character was a blacksmith before he became adventuring type of skills approach in a sword and sorcery game.
Sure.
When I moved to 13 Parsecs, a sci-fi game, you got to have characters that are skilled in different ways. So skills became much more front and center in the game in that sense. In Night Shift, I have a blend of the two. And magic is another one. Like, magic in Night Shift is very different than magic in Wasted Lands. Although both of them work on the basic percentile dice spell casting, Wasted Lands incorporates out of necessity a corruption mechanic that is maybe there optionally in Night Shift, but in the background. But in Wasted Lands, if you're casting magic, you're going to turn into a monster at some point in time because that's how it works in that genre. So that's some small examples of the way I do that. And I think that's important. Like, if you're going to build a game, especially if you want to build a game around your house system, the license or the genre or the overall game has to come before your pet rules. If you fall too in love with your system, you're going to fail.
How about you, Greg?
Yeah, the number one thing I get comment on Shadowrim with is that people say that it feels like it captures Skyrim. And that's the whole reason why I don't, like, I love Skyrim. I do not play any of the Mophidius stuff or the officially licensed stuff because it does not feel like Skyrim at all.
Yep.
It feels like a generic combat tactical, or what I hesitate to even call RPG, tactical minis game, right? And so, like, within Shadowrim, I built a system using the Shadowdark architecture for doing random alchemical ingredients right when you pick it up, right? So, like, you pick up a hawk feather, and that's when you make the roll to determine what the alchemical value is of the hawk feather, and then you have to do experimentation with other things in order to start creating alchemy, just like when you first played Skyrim, right? And I made it random so that it wouldn't be like Wikipedia, like Skyrim Wiki, where you could just look up everything. Like, okay, these are the 4 pre-generated qualities of this item, and I'm going to use it for whatever. It's like, it feels like you're playing Skyrim for the first time.
Yeah, because you get to discover it as you go.
Yeah. And I love that because it puts everybody on, like, an even playing field.
That's right.
Like, so I can run it, and, like, Jason, not this Jason, but one of my buddies who's got, like, 1,400 hours into, Skyrim, like he could play, I could run Shadowrim and he won't just instantly know.
And it would change from campaign to campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you have an example of how your approach was different, say, for Shadow City or for one of your other products?
So for Shadow City, there are elements of kind of Vampire the Masquerade, for just the way that Vampire the Masquerade games play out, that is just not a part of the D&D Shadowdark ecosystem. For instance, you're supposed to be, right, a person who's struggling with their immortality and the fact that they're losing distance from real people, right? They're becoming like a monster. They're aging people that they know are dying, and they're still living, So I created a touchstone system within Shadow City of, you have these three people that you're kind of connected to when you make your character, and you can add to them, you can subtract to them through different game mechanics. You're vulnerable in a sense that, like, if something happens to them, it'll be negative. I tell the GM not to like hunt down and kill your, like, that's not the purpose of the touchstone. But like, if you have a kid who you're trying to like get through high school, and there's a gang war and the kid gets killed, like, you're going to be upset about this. So your character is going to want to like make decisions to try to protect these people. If the people die, they start to change. So in Vampire, there's all these mechanics around your humanity and how you're kind of losing touch and becoming more of a monster. And I simplified most of that into a humanity mechanic that is a modifier that goes from +3 down to -7. So it's a 10-point spread, but it's shifted down. Mm-hmm. And it's a double modifier. It's a two-edged modifier. So whatever it is applied as a positive to your reaction rolls, but as an inverse to your attack rolls. So if you're really human looking, you have less of a combat prowess. The more monstrous you become, you're just ripping people's faces off, but you look like you're a monster, right? So those kind of things, I would not put those in Shadow Dark Core or Shadow Rim or even Shadow Sun. Like, it doesn't fit that genre. In Shadow Sun, the premise of the kind of world is that it's desperate and you're willing to do terrible things in order to get ahead.
Yeah.
So there's a system in Dark Sun where to become a dragon, you basically have to sacrifice huge numbers of people through magic to get all of that magical energy from their life force to become a dragon lord. Like, so I created a similar system in Shadow Sun. Now, I would never make like, you're playing regular old Shadow Dark. If you kill these 1,000 people, you'll become a dragon. Like, that doesn't fit with the Shadow Dark motif, right?
Yeah.
But like, the temptation of like, what if you get powerful enough you could do that? What, like, it's like there's multiple things like that. I actually created, because I love vampires, I created vampires as a nature magic version of that dragon. So like, you are killing and absorbing people's life force almost like on an individual basis every night, right? Every day you're sucking people up, and then you over time become more and more and more powerful. That wouldn't fit with the regular Shadow Dark motif either, right?
Sure.
So those kind of things are all being adjusted on the back end. Those are the things I write down in my notepad document. Like, hey, what if you did blah, 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 blah,
I actually want to come back in and say, when you talked about touchstones, that brings up another idea that I should have talked about for mine. When Todd, you were asking about, like, how we do different. I have an idea of divine touchstones in Wasted Lands that does not exist in Night Shift, because the idea in Wasted Lands is that while it's a Conan-esque Lovecraftian sword and sorcery game, the general idea is that you're playing an all too mortal version of Thor or Odin or Zeus or Artemis or whatever, and one of the ancient gods throughout mythology all over the world. But you're playing their mortal origins. So I have a concept called Divine Touchstones, which is a means by which your characters go through apotheosis as they adventure, as they interact with their own mythology, personal mythology. They gain special abilities that come, like if you're playing Thor, the first divine touchstone you might get might be a magical hammer that you carry.
Oh, I see.
So,
and this isn't a thing in the others. This is specific.
It is not. Now we have ported it over after a fashion to 13 parsecs as a completely optional subsystem called heroic touchstones, where your characters can gain special abilities through just their general heroism and their legend growing. But it's not to the same extent as the apotheosis in Wasted Lands, and it doesn't exist at all in Night Shift, although we may bring it into the second edition as an optional bolt-on with the heroic touchstones. But yeah, that's a prime example, and I didn't think about it, which I should have, until you talked about the word touchstones in your game. So yeah,
and for me, I do it. I do it even with very minor things, like the durability of objects. In the Middle Ages, castle walls should be very hard to breach. Same to be true if you're playing like in the Roman Empire or classical Greece. It's hard to break through stone walls. But if you're playing in a world with plasma weapons and high explosives, stone walls not the best protection, actually.
Yeah.
And so even just how durable objects are treated based on the genre can vary. Or I've been toying with doing a black powder game, either Wild West or Pirates. Either way, firearms would work significantly differently than they do in Dropship, whereas firearms would work fairly similarly between Dropship and like a modern era game, because they are essentially modern and slightly futuristic firearms. Whereas if you're dealing with something that takes 30 seconds or a minute to reload, same rules aren't going to work correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
I've actually, that Curse of Strahd thing, I have in one of my undeveloped pages a note about making, basically using the magic items kind of mechanics that we normally think of for like wands or staffs or whatever to do arquebuses. So basically you've got like a one thing, and it has like a recharge time. You have to have a guy who actually knows how to make the ammunition for it and repair it and all that stuff. And it's going to be rare in this world. So it'll be like, okay, I've got 3 shots with this thing, and then I'm out. And I can't let this powder get wet. I can't do this. I can't do that. So like, I would never do that with Shadow City, where you're just shooting off however many rounds you want. Like, it doesn't matter. You'll get more ammunition. It doesn't matter to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so it sounds like we all think that this is a good and important thing to do to help a given project, a setting, or even a game system really pop and be good.
Yeah, I think it's important to, and I think we'd all agree, to put the setting and the license, if you have a license, or the setting or the genre first, and you have to build your rules around that instead of trying to force it to fit in a pre-existing rule set. And I think there's just too many companies out there right now that think it's all about their house system, and they're trying to force everything into their house system just so they can show off how cool their house system is and how it can handle anything. And all too often, it just can't.
Now, Roger, on the customer side, do you like those kinds of changes for genre?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think like that's like one of the most important things to look at is how the system, is different from other systems like it and how they handle it. There's a ton of, OSR, right? Or like BX, BX is a great example, right? Because there's a million BX clones, maybe more, right? They're just everywhere. And so, so there's like different things. Like I'm in a Dolmenwood game, right? That got mentioned earlier. Like that particularly has hexes, and there's something in every hex. And so there's like additional rules that are kind of in there for doing, the hexploration stuff and camping and all that stuff that you don't normally see in those games. And that sort of helps push that, I think, in the game, to say, hey, these rules are here so that you can use them and you want to do these things, where some, there might. Yeah. And like Dan mentions, there's too many clone games, and that's like, with just a few house rules. So I think the ones that really show up, go to the top of the list or the top of the pile, are the ones that have those kind of special rules, where somebody's taken the care to say, okay, what is this setting? Like, what rules can you put in here that make the setting actually show,
And I have an example where they captured it and I hated it. I really love the Alien system from Freely. I think it's fantastic. There's things about it that I wouldn't tolerate in any other game that work in the Alien genre. Like the Alien, when it encounters you, it doesn't even roll to hit. It rolls how much it fucks you up, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would never tolerate that in D&D, right? Like,
Yeah.
Right. No, in Alien, it's perfect.
But it's
perfect,
great in Alien, right? And then they used the similar system, and they're making Walking Dead. And my son really likes Walking Dead. I'm not a real big zombie guy, but my son really wanted it. So we went in on the Kickstarter for the nice limited edition book, and we got it. And I read it, and I talked with Grant about it, and I was like, I don't think it's going to work the way you think it's going to be. And he was like, let's do it. So we started running it. And the problem is, in The Walking Dead, there's Walking Dead everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't clear them out. You can't get rid of them. So the game mechanics in Walking Dead, you might roll a result that you're able to kind of push them back and get away from them, but you never really eliminate anything. You never really cleanse anything. So you can't go in and go, I'm going to cleanse this whole building and I'm going to lock it down. I'm going to hold this stuff. Because the game mechanics will always be like, okay, you don't get eaten, but they're still there. And that captures The Walking Dead actually, like show, right? But both of us being D&D people were like, I hate this. This is not good. Like, so the artwork's great. The mechanics do what they're supposed to do. And I hate it.
Yeah. I've talked
I think
before.
all in all,
go ahead, Raj.
I think all in all, I think Free League does a pretty decent job with kind of adapting their their Mutant Year Zero engine to like different games and changing it enough to kind of make it fit, the different genres. Obviously, there's some things that they do it better than others.
It actually took me quite some time to get turned on to the Year Zero engine, and it was Alien that did it because there's some shit design decisions in Tales from the Loop that turned me off so bad that I dumped the game 3 pages into reading it. I mean, there's actually says in there that at least every other scene, the game master should have absolutely no say in what goes on, and the players should run the entire game from end to end. I'm like, first of all, that's a bunch of bullshit in general in any system. And then it talked about how players should, in this game, because it's a kids on bikes game, characters should never, ever be able to die under any circumstances whatsoever. And again, I'm like, maybe that's in genre, but this is an RPG. Like,
that's those filthy story gamers.
So, I completely just, I was like, this system is not, because I took that as this is Year Zero engine, and it's not. It's what they did for Tales from the Loop. So it turned out that I am not a fan of the Tales from the Loop RPG, but I do actually like the Year Zero engine.
Sure.
We are playing in an Alien game soon in my group, and we have just wrapped up a really fun Blade Runner campaign that we ran, which uses a different, and that's a great illustration of what we're talking about.
Right.
Blade Runner, the version of the Year Zero engine that is used in Blade Runner is almost unrecognizable from the one that is used in Alien.
Yeah.
Because it uses the same general stats and ratings, but the dice mechanic is
the dice is a little bit different. Yeah.
Completely changed.
And it's interesting. But it's the same system kind of at its core.
Yeah.
But
my biggest issue with Blade Runner is that I thought combat was way, way too deadly for it being Blade Runner. There's too much of a chance that like somebody shoots you and you get an instant death result, which
I kind of liked that.
I do, but I don't like it for Blade Runner, because if you watch any of the Blade Runner properties, the heroes get the shit pounded out of them for the entire movie, and they just keep going.
That's Harrison Ford's whole acting career.
Yeah.
That's true.
No movie he's in where he doesn't get his ass just relentlessly beat on.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, Han Solo, like constantly getting his punched in the face, man. You can't have a skill on Han Solo.
But also there's like in Blade Runner, like in the movies and things, like there's only one, investigator. There's only one Blade Runner, right?
Yeah.
Like there's not a group of 4 of them. Going
I mean, we could go on and on. It's not my only issue with Blade Runner. We could go on and on. I think there's too much police procedural aspect to it. In some ways, it feels more like a law.
I think some people want that.
Yeah, it does, but it's not really Blade Runner. It feels more like Law and Order, the RPG.
This is when you need that soundboard, Roger. Boom, boom.
Yeah, which I did start using in our Blade Runner game. I actually pulled that on my phone, and I would start going dun dun.
Nice.
But overall, I really dig Blade Runner and its iteration of the Year Zero engine, and I love the iteration in Aliens. But it's a prime example of what we're talking about: how you change your system to suit the license or the genre. You don't force the license or the genre.
I do think this is related to the topic that we started here with. My biggest criticism of Free League. I love Alien.
Yeah.
My biggest criticism of them as a whole and all the stuff I've seen is that I get the feeling, I don't know how exactly they're doing this, but I get the feeling that they're play testing the game, they're running the game, unlike a lot of companies. So I'm trying to give them props for doing that. Okay. But they're running it in a particular way. And then when it's released out into the universe, it's not exactly designed for the way a wider range of GMs might run it.
Yeah.
And for instance, the Destroyer of Worlds module is masterful. Like I made the 3-part YouTube video series on it. It is awesome. But
don't spoil it because I haven't played it, and we're going to be running it in my group.
Okay, I won't spoil it. The information design is not good. It's designed for it to be played in a particular railroady way, which a lot of people may not do. You don't have to do it that way.
Yeah.
And so it's organized for the GM to have information presented. I'm like, if you just broke this up into chunks, like this is like a geometry problem. I'm like, if you just broke this up into better chunks and spread them out, it would make it easier to run it this way. But it's not set up that way. Like, so I think what you can do is you can get so up in the way you think about a particular thing, the way you run a particular thing, that you don't anticipate other people using it in a different way.
Right.
I designed an item. It's in the Shadow Sun Quick Start. It's a magic item. It's a bucket of coals, and what it is if you rub the coal on your face like black marks for like your Spec Ops guy or whatever, like you're playing football, whatever it is, it'll give you kind of like a transparent chameleon effect. Okay, and then I was like, I didn't want to make it over, so I said, if you don't put the coals back in, after a certain amount of time, you'll turn into a wraith. It's just like, you've become too bad. And I was like, I put that into a group chat with Lord Mattias. A bunch of guys were in there, and Lord Mattias goes, okay, first thing I'm going to do is start running around town just rubbing coal on people's faces. And I'm going to keep doing that for hours and hours and hours and hours until it triggers this thing, and they'll all turn into wraiths. And I was like, okay, we're going to have to add a limitation to that magic item. Okay? The way you would use the item is not necessarily the way everybody will use this item.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by that same token, you can't account for everything. Somebody is always going to find a way to break whatever you have created. No matter how solid it is, somebody out there is going to be able to break it, and they're going to break it just because they can, because that's the nature of a lot of gamers in the hobby. They look for reasons and ways to break games. Some of them just because it's an entertaining part of the hobby for them, and some of them because they want to feel better than the designers, and they want to then go out in public and say that this game sucks because look how easy it was to break it. But regardless, you're going to have, for a variety of reasons, you're going to have somebody that's going to break whatever you've come up with.
That's why I try to get a wide variety of playtesters, but I do focus on trying to get a few of those guys who enjoy breaking games, because it really helps catch some problems.
Yeah. I have specific playtesters in my pool that's what they specialize in, breaking games.
Yeah. No, I think you got to do that, but because it's clear there's stuff out there that, hasn't been play tested well enough. And
There's
stuff by major companies that obviously wasn't play tested.
Sure.
Right. But by the same token, there's also things out there that don't honestly need play testing. You're using very tried and true rules and systems out there that have been used for years and years and decades. Sometimes you can just say, I know this is going to work because it's been play tested by millions of people for decades. And I think there's a point where you have to know, what parts of your game need the most play testing.
I agree that like I don't need to test whether the D20 mechanic works right or whatever, right? But there's going to be things that you don't think about that playtesting will bring up. And one of the things that I think I really came around to this within the past few months. It's something that I didn't see for a long time, and then I was listening to episode of Daddy Rolled a One where he was going through all sorts of stuff from original D&D, and I realized that this is that's happening. Is how many of us have heard somebody complain that original D&D, low level D&D, wizards suck, right? They're too weak. It sucks. Whatever, constantly, right? But then Daddy Rolled a One guy pointed out that you're supposed to be giving these guys tons of scrolls, wands, and all this stuff at ratios that are in these random tables. Right? So what happens is the game gets designed, the mechanics work the way that the designers design. If you're getting scrolls at this particular mathematical rate, then this wizard will be really powerful and good. And he'll have lots of choices. He can, at a certain point, he can start making his own scrolls. There's all sorts of mechanics like that. But if you then play a series of modules that don't drop enough scrolls, don't drop enough wands, don't drop enough stuff, it's just dropping raw gold, which means the wizard's cut is never ended up like there. It's this guy gets the magic sword and this guy gets the magic shield and everything, but the wizard's not getting his share of the thing. Well, then yes, it's going to suck. It's going to feel like it sucks to be a wizard. But if every time you were going through dungeon rooms and I was dropping scrolls of invisibility and scrolls of magic missile and scrolls of fireball and scrolls of that, you'd be like, hey, this wizard's kicking ass, right? Yeah. But I'm not doing that because of the way the module is designed, because of the way the GM is running things, whatever. Then it won't feel that way. So there's things that, how could you play test that if you were making, like you ran it, you play tested it with your charts and your tables and it works, right? But you let it out into the world and people are going to start doing things differently. Yeah.
And nowhere in the rules does it say that this is an assumption.
That's
and that's the key right there. And that's kind of where
I haven't watched that video.
And that's kind of where it falls apart, is that everything you need is there, but the rules are not clear. There's this assumption that your wizards are going to be getting, X number of scrolls and X number of wands and X number, which is, again, for mine, it was one of the reasons I took the approach I did for my ogre's system. I wanted to take these classic rules, this inspiration from these classic rules, and offer them codified in a way that they weren't codified originally. Like my rule of 2, it's never been codified as the rule of 2, where the GM can adjudicate anything they need to adjudicate by picking a die, rolling it, and looking for a 1 or 2. What is there in OD&D, BX, BCMI, AD&D? What is there? Elves notice a secret door by walking past it on a roll of 1 or a 2 on a D6. Listening for noise at a door, if you're not a thief, happens on a 1 or a 2 on a D6. Surprise is done on a 1 or a 2 on a D6. It's all through the rules, but nobody ever said This is kind of a universal.
Yeah.
Pick a die, roll it, and look for a 1 or a 2. So that's kind of the approach that I took. I kind of wanted to address that idea of it's never said in there that that's how this is supposed to be used. So let's say it. Let's just say it outright and make it a core part of the system instead of, and again, this is no shade, obviously, on the guys that wrote D&D back in the day. I mean, they're icons of our hobby. They started the whole thing, and they did something that we wouldn't be here without them. And those games are still great today. But they were doing something that had never been done before.
They were doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
The first person to build, particular thing doesn't think of, I'm going to need a guardrail here so people don't fall into it.
Right.
They're building the thing. They're focused on building the thing, not like making sure it's all safe for people walking by randomly, whatever. Like they're trying to make the device work. So like, I get it. I can't fault them for that. What I fault is like, second and third edition D&D not picking up that this is what needs to be done. This is how it should be rolled out. That is what it is. I don't want to go deeper.
Now, are there? I'm looking at the time. Looks like we got about 28 minutes.
28 minutes. Yeah.
Is there another design question that we could think about? Do you have any on your list, Roger?
No, I think we covered everything on my list.
Good.
I've got one, and I don't know how to phrase this as a question. I don't know how to phrase this as a question, so I'm gonna say it out
just
there.
say it. Yeah.
What I think is a truism, and then you guys can react to it as you believe. I think there are way too many designers out there, especially new indie designers, who want to be innovative for the sake of being innovative and different for the sake of being different. And I think that is almost universally a horrible idea. I do not believe as a designer in reinventing the wheel if it doesn't need to be reinvented. If you have a mechanic that does what you need it to do, use it. It doesn't serve you in any way other than for you to be able to say, look how clever I am, to create something entirely new and different that in the end could be accomplished easier with something that's been done for years. So that's basically, I don't know, I'd like to, like we hear a lot about people saying about, this game system's so innovative and different.
Yeah.
Is it?
Don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Never. I go out of my way to not reinvent the wheel. Whenever I'm designing something, I will look at what I've got in front of me and go, do I have something here that's already established that's going to work and work well?
Yeah.
And if there is, let's use it. It stops my players and my customers from having to learn something new for no good reason whatsoever.
Yeah. I agree with that.
How do you guys feel about that? Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah.
The success of my YouTube channel over the past year has been because of a simple formula. I read the actual thing and I say, this is what it actually says. And then if you do that, this is what will actually happen. That is almost all of my video. And people are like, whoa, this is great.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm just a practical person. Does this thing work the way that you are presenting it to? Not how does everybody run Strahd, but what does it actually say in the fucking book?
Yeah.
Does it say that? Does it say to do this? Does it say to do that? Are people doing it? Are people just skipping it? There's tons of things in my videos where I'm like, you can, write this in a book, but players will not do this. When you say this to players, this is what they're going to pick. They're not going to follow this path. That's not optimal to players to do what you're asking them to do. So much stuff that is like somebody thought they were being cool by having some idea about something. There's tons of stuff like that. I'll pick on Curse of Strahd because they're a big fish. And I won't pick on little guys, but I see this on little guys stuff all the time. like you were saying, there's so many designers out there that do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But in Curse of Strahd, there's an abbey where the abbot is an angel, like a level 9, level 12 type angel. Like,
spoilers.
yeah, godlike angel. It's fucking Curse of Strahd, you know. So he's building a flesh golem wife that he's going to try to offer to Strahd to satisfy him somehow. There's no plan. There's no description of how this is going to work. There's no other, like, it doesn't even, in the text, it doesn't even, he doesn't have a future for this, but like, it's just, this is what he has been doing. And the GM is just supposed to like make that happen.
Yeah.
Somebody was like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a flesh goal and a blah, blah, like, no, that's not cool. It's a dumb idea. It's a stupid idea. The last thing you want to do when you finally get all the way across the map to the Abbey and you go in and you find out that the abbot is a deranged angel building a flesh golem, you're like, what is happening here? Like, this is a stupid idea. Yeah. There's so many ideas like that where somebody have something they've shoved in there because it's something that they think is cool and it doesn't fit what they're trying to do at all.
It's one of those sex duels you were talking about earlier.
Sex duels,
It's for.
And I'll bring up another example like of something I've done here in Amazing Adventures. One of the character classes in Amazing Adventures is the gadgeteer or powered hero. And that character covers any type of hero that has some sort of superpowers, whether it's one of the X-Men or whether it's Batman with his utility belt and gadgets or whether it's James Bond with, whatever. And instead of coming up with a whole new complicated power system that I had to bolt on to the Siege engine, I went pretty much every superpower you've ever wanted to have is already there in your basic D20 based rules in the spells. Okay. A spell caster can do just about anything that you can imagine. They can become invulnerable. They can fly. They can shoot laser beams from their eyes. They can teleport. All of it's there. So I just went for superpowered characters. You spend points and you buy a spell, and then you reskin it to be whatever you want your superpower to be. And it was stunning to me that nobody's ever thought to do that before. That everybody creates these complicated, and now in the upcoming Book of Powers, I do have an effects-based power system, but basically I broke down the spells and went, okay, so every spell in a D20 system that does multiple dice of damage basically does 1d6 per level. So there's my damage effect right there, and again, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's using what I already have in front of me that I know for a fact works. And
now
there,
to respond to your original point and give an example that you, I think, did, I think you should work to improve the wheel. I think you should look at what has come before you and go, is there a way to make this work faster or better or more intuitively? An example from older D&D would be Thaco. It's unintuitive. It's not a difficult rule. It's just not what you would expect. If you were coming into a game where rolling a high number is usually good. And then you're like, wait, why is negative armor good? It's not hard. It's just not intuitive. And so later editions of D&D change that rule to make it more intuitive. Or in your case, with the rule of two, thinking of that as a procedural rule that they basically were using, and also having it occur to you that you could vary the dice size to match the odds. That's improving something that came before you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also people have told me that my combat system takes Thaco and makes it make sense because of what I did instead of subtraction. And I didn't set out to do this, but I won't try to pretend that it's not there. I basically made everything about addition instead of subtraction. So instead of subtracting your dice roll from the Thaco to see what armor class you hit, you add the armor class to your dice roll and try to get a 20 or better. And that still maintains the low AC is better, but it makes it more intuitive for people to
There's
grasp.
also like certain mechanics that just don't feel right to the way people think, the way they do things.
Yeah.
When we've been playing Dolmenwood, and a ton of the procedures are pass-fail procedures. So you're like camping for the night, and you're just rolling check after check after check after check, just pass fail, pass fail, pass fail. It's very unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And so we had to talk about it, and I wrote up a system that I put on my Patreon this week. I'm making a video about it for next week, where hesitant to use the name that I came up with, Roger. Out of respect for you, I'm not going to use the name I came up with. The morning wood system there, I couldn't help it. So the idea is you have to get enough wood in order to make it to the morning with your fire, right? Okay. Yeah. So that's actually additive system. You're rolling a D6, I'm rolling a D6, he's rolling we're adding it together. We're trying to get up to a total that feels better to people than pass fail, pass fail, pass fail,
yeah.
pass fail,
yeah.
pass fail.
Yeah.
So by putting it of like, once you accomplish these core tasks before you start camping, you got to have somebody to take care of the animals and whatever, all this stuff. Then everybody else can try to gather up enough wood to have a fire through the night. If you don't make it, bad things happen. If you make it, good things happen. Great. Okay. But at least it feels like you're accomplishing a goal rather than avoiding a huge number of things pass fail, right? And so there's certain mechanics that even if, like you were saying about the math guys, like even if the math works, it can feel crappy.
Right.
It's unsatisfying. So the better thing to do is actually have it work a different way, even if you might not like it mechanically. I think there's so many people that have criticized the Shadow Dark Torch mechanic. It's well known. But what I like about the torch mechanic is that it actually makes you keep track of using torches. Most people will play and they'll just be like, I light a torch. And then that's like the end of the discussion for the whole dungeon exploration. Yeah. And then they come out and they'll be like, oh yeah, I should probably mark down some torches. But by having it on a timer like that, even if the timer is unrealistic to what you're trying to do in the game world from a simulation perspective, it's good for people. It helps people figure out, okay, I need to light another torch. I say the same thing about a lot, like the encumbrance systems. It doesn't do any good to have a huge, complicated encumbrance system that's very accurate if nobody uses it.
Right.
Like it has to actually work for people to do.
That's something that I've liked about Shadow Dark is everything that's kind of in there has been made to simplify and make the game move ahead, quicker. And like the torch mechanic, like even for the people that are like trying to math it out, like it even works better with them because, they're like, oh, we got an hour in real time. So like if we all hurry and we get through this room and this room and this room, now we've gone through more rooms and we spent more time in game than an hour and we're gaming the system. And as the GM, I'm like, that's fantastic because it's keeping people motivated to go from room to room to room and actually play the game. And like really all they're getting out of it is like they're saving 2 copper on a torch. Like that's what they're stealing, right? Is 2 copper from you having to use another torch, but they're actually progressing the game forward. And like, I use a sand timer and like, when somebody's trying to make up their mind, somebody will point to the sand timer and they're like, oh shit. Yeah. Okay. Let's just do this. It's crazy the way that.
Yeah. You know what the torch mechanic, I'm not a big Shadow Dark guy. I think it's a solid system. It's designed very well. I have nothing bad to say about it. It just doesn't overly resonate with me personally. But I do think that the torch mechanic is one of the more interesting developments that has been put in that game. I enjoy it. And I haven't played with it in detail to see how it works out in game. It may need some adjustment or tweaking. I don't know. I'm not the guy to say that. But I think from a conceptual standpoint, it's something that's been missing from fantasy gaming for a long time is, like you said, all too often you go in a dungeon. Oh, we've got torches. We light them. We have light. And the whole time you're in the dungeon, somebody just assumes that there's a torch burning. And then when you go into combat, nobody stops to think, well, the wizard can't cast a spell because he's holding the torch.
Right.
And if he drops the torch goes out.
Yeah.
You know, I think having that in there to draw attention to the fact that your light source is finite is a good idea.
I've had to drop from a 60-minute timer to a 30-minute timer because my players are just that efficient now, where like the 30
don't do
minutes
that,
is a
Roger.
better,
Let them have their
thing.
fun.
Yeah.
No.
Let them be big damn heroes,
Don't
Roger.
steal their efficiency gains.
Oh boy. Take it up with my players, all right? We're gonna try Forbidden Lands now anyway, so we're gonna see how that goes.
One of the
What did you say? Wasted Lands? Is that what you said? You're gonna try Wasted Lands?
Sure, yeah.
One of the reasons though is when you're running a game, is when you're the game master, if you are following the rules as written, there is basically unless the designer did something really stupid, you will get very little argument from players about following the actual rules. Because you can be like, it's not me, guys. Look, that's the rule.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do a bunch of house rules, then that really is your fault. That's a thing you caused.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, there is an optional rule in Shadow Dark. There's like a whole bunch of optional. One of them is to have a 30-minute timer. So
yeah,
Roger can blame that.
Yeah. No, it just seems to work, just with as quick as they're going in and out of things. Yeah.
Now that is pretty accurate to life, by the way. A real torch, like made the medieval style, lasts something like 30 to 40 minutes. So a 30-minute timer is realistic if you were actually exploring at the speed at which you'd be moving in real life.
What if you're John Rambo and you're in a wet cave?
Yeah.
How long will that torch last?
He's not going to be carrying
as long as the plot allows.
Yeah. Roger just said exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, as long as the plot dictates.
Yeah, as soon as the plot needs that torch to go out, then it'll go out.
It will go out. Yeah,
it's
like as soon as the plot needs him to run out of ammo, that's the point where he runs out of ammo.
I saw that someone texted me, Agile. I will check it in a little while. I try not to check my phone on stream.
Agile test your faith by sending you text while you're on stream to see where your real loyalties lie, Roger.
Yeah, I can't. That's all I need is for one of these guys to catch me, with my phone in my hand, going, "Oh wait, hang on, I got a message."
I still think about that crispy table runner crispy thing where he breaks down Matt Colville's play and he catches Matt Colville looking at his phone during his own live play, demoing his own system to the world.
Oh my god!
And he's distracted by. I was like, "Oh man, that sucks." Brutal. I don't ever want to have that happen to me.
You know what? I got one last thing I want to bring up since we're talking about rules design. And again, I'm not sure how to phrase this as a question, but I've had this happen at tables, and I think people don't think about. They tend not to think about designers as people with fallible memories and fallible. I'll be sitting at a table. And it often happens at a con. Some rule will come up and I won't remember how it's supposed to work, or it won't work exactly as, and some player inevitably goes, "Well, what were you thinking when you wrote it?" I go, "I don't know. I wrote that 6 years ago. I can't," And I think there are those times where all of us, every single designer out there, you're going through something you wrote 6 years ago and you go, "What the fuck was I thinking when I wrote that?" And that's where second editions and second printings come in. But
well, Sean Connery already answered this question in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where he said, "I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember
it." That's right. Yeah. And people always also ask me, well, how does such and such a situation, how do we resolve this in game? And it'll be a rule that's not used very often. Yeah. And I'll go, "Give me a second. Let me check, what I did there." And they'll go, well, didn't you write it? And I go, yeah, this may come as a surprise to you, but I do not remember every word of the 330 pages.
Jason, try this instead. Do the same thing, but instead make it their problem. Go, what does the rule say?
Yeah. What's the rule say? Or
that's hard to do at a convention where everybody doesn't have the rule book, though.
I heard Gary, when Gary was posed questions like that, he would ask them, what did you do?
Yeah.
You know, what did you do in that situation? How did you handle it? You know? So
one of the things, though, is that we're all of us here except Roger, because he, you know, until we get Roger's secret manuscript, we won't know Roger. But we're all multi-dimensional beings that exist at different moments in time. And so if the rule in Horde Wars worked one way for a while, and then there was a period where it didn't work that way because he changed his mind, and then it went back to working that way, and then there was another rule that got put in and said, now because of this other rule, we're going to change this to align with that. When you ask Todd, hey, what's the rule for this? He's going back through 5 different phases
iterations.
Like, which one did it happen to be? Yeah, so like, it's not just what went into the book.
Right.
We also remember all the things that didn't go into the book.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the other reason, though, that I will frame it as making it their problem is because I'm trying to teach them how to find the information next time, so I don't get asked the same question.
So you don't have to do it again. Yeah.
I love your optimism that you can train people to do this.
Optimism? No, it works. I have specific people who ask me specific questions that they have stopped asking.
Random internet people cannot be trained to do things, but specific people, okay, all right, that's fine.
No, customers too.
Okay. I get so much, like, get some comments where I'm just going through, I'm replying to comment, and then somebody will ask some question where it's like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to look that up. I'll be like, I'll reply to that tomorrow.
Yeah, do that, and you'll know if it's stuck when you explained it to someone else by having them look it up and tell you what the rule said, because they will tell your other customers. They'll be like, yeah, no, it's this page. This is how it works. Then you know that they've picked it up. You're like, oh, okay.
Here's one. Have you ever designed a rule in one of your games based on shit that you know your players at the table do all the time, that then found its way into the game, and whether it worked or not for a general audience? Have you ever done that? Yeah.
And incorporated stuff for a setting that the players came up with or caused.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a good friend of mine named Matt Jackson. He does art for maps. He's got some solo play videos on YouTube. He used to be a big blogger back in the Google Plus time frame when we were ball back on that. He's kind of taken a step back recently because he's got a really, really good job that he has to take care of. But Matt Jackson fell off a ladder, and it was a comic moment. And so now almost everything I've ever written that's not game rules, but like any locations and places, somewhere in that book, there's a ladder that has like Matt carved into it, or MJ from Magic.
Oh no!
Somewhere in there, it's either a knocked over ladder or it's a steady ladder, like everywhere. I honor Matt. That's something like that happens. There's going to be a guy named Roger who eats chalk in a future book that I write because Roger carved his name into the chalk monument.
I've not eaten chalk yet.
I actually have a rule. I actually have a rule in my fate points system for the GMs that goes back to my wife, actually. And the rule in there is that players can advocate for themselves or other players to get fate points because they feel like they've done something that merits it. Basically as a way to remind the GM that you're supposed to give these out, when we do something cool. But it's specifically saying that slamming your fist on the table and yelling, "Oh, come on," is an acceptable way to do this. And that's because my wife does that all the time in game.
Yeah, I have, there is an entire Crusader keep that you will find in Horde Wars Advanced that exists because of our playtesters. They established that keep and built it from nothing. And so it made it in there along with the names of one or two of the characters who actually participated in that campaign during playtesting. There's
Cool.
one or two other locations. And then I have a few customers of Horde Wars Basic, and you know who you are, who there are special italicized text in Horde Wars Advanced because of you. I don't put your name there, but you know, we talked about it. where they didn't understand a rule or tried to abuse it in some way, and so I put in special explanation text
Just for them. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Which I appreciate. It helps other people who might not have understood the rule or who were trying to push it in a way it wasn't intended to be.
Right. And it's an amusing wink and a nod to those players at the same time. Yeah.
Maybe you can add a little italicized text in a future edition about a guy named Grant whose own team tried to get him court-martialed, like that kind of thing.
We should make him an officer.
Or just random. Yeah. Not related to anything that happened in North Texas.
Yeah.
I think Todd, in honor of me, you need a character quote in there somewhere that's I have to do everything. Has to show up.
Just constantly complaining because he's always off on his own doing things. Gotta do everything myself.
I have to fucking do everything.
Yeah. I think the DM should have final say at most things, you know.
Yeah.
Especially
I think we can all agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I really dislike about story games. I had I forget which one it was, but there was one of these mechanics where it was like, if you look for the thing, you roll to see whether the thing is there, whether or not the GM thinks it would be like reasonable for the thing to be there.
Right.
And I saw a guy basically be like, I wonder if there's a sniper rifle in this trash pile. And then he made a roll. It was like, miraculously, there was a sniper rifle in this trash pile.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Jesus. So that, like, things like that, yeah, I played story games for a long time, but in my old age, I'm getting crotchety and focused on what I like 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Roger, anything that we should be ramping up with?
No, I don't. You Todd, you keep like assuming that I'm like running this show just because my name's on.
Well,
the
you are. You're the MC, Rod.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're
No,
the,
you guys
master of
really
ceremonies, the
really
ring
answered.
master.
You guys really answered like a lot of questions. We talked about a lot of good stuff, I think. And, I'm sure we'll continue this next week.
Oh yeah.
So, but no, it's been a great time as always. We want to thank Greg for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for filling in for our
for-
redheaded stepchild who abandoned,
yeah.
who ran away from home.
You know,
Indeed, we very much appreciate it.
these kids, you know.
I should mention ending Sunday, so the next few days, Dropship is on sale, $10 off soft covers if you are interested in picking up a copy.
Cool.
And that's also when our miniatures sale is going to end, is Sunday.
Cool.
Yeah, nice. And yeah, I'll put the
Awesome minis.
I'll put the links in the chat here, and hopefully all that stuff works. Yeah, fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's been a great discussion. We'll talk about it next week. Check out the Shadow Sun Kickstarter. There's the sign up thing there, so you can tell. Hey, remind me when
There's a free quick start for it that is the largest free Shadow Dark asset on the web. It's bigger than the Shadow Dark quick start. It has its own adventure. It has full character generation, all that stuff.
Awesome.
Check it out.
Nice. Very
it's
cool.
a great adventure. Yeah, it's really cool. You're going inside a golem that had kind of fallen over. It's like going up like in one leg and exploring and stuff. It's really a fun time. So I mean, I had players that did some kind of things that they probably shouldn't have, even though I telegraphed danger. But it is what it is.
That map was drawn by Matt Jackson,
Cool.
but
Cool.
there is no ladder in it out of respect for him because he gave it to me for free. So he gave it to me as a gift, so I can't put a ladder in there. Although it would be useful because there is a heavy slope that you slide into some water. But I'm a benevolent person, and I didn't.
Hopefully the players have rope to get out of there. Then, we'll see. My players didn't get to the water, so they didn't make it that far. But yeah, good times. So thanks everybody for coming. It was fantastic as always. Support these guys. These guys have awesome stuff. Eventually, maybe I'll have something that's out there, but who knows? That's down the road. Maybe I'll talk to these guys some more about it and see what they think. But
would love to.
That's
absolutely.
That's what I think. So thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
See you.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good night.